Ancient warfare required the mass mobilization of resources on a staggering scale. A single campaign demanded a baseline of 100,000 mail-clad soldiers, heavy chariots, and provisions to carry them across vast distances. This scale grounds the central, uncompromising thesis of Sun Tzu's The Art of War. He states in Chapter 1, "The art of war is of vital importance to the state. It is a matter of life and death, a road either to safety or to ruin." The daily financial cost to maintain this war machine at home and at the front was absolute. Sun Tzu calculates this expenditure at exactly 1,000 ounces of silver per day. Because conflict poses an existential economic risk that can drain the state's treasury and leave it vulnerable to internal collapse, it can never be left to chance, human emotion, or mere bravery on the battlefield. Modern pop culture often misinterprets the art of war as a collection of mystical aphorisms or generalized corporate philosophy. In reality, it is a rigorous economic and mathematical framework. The text operates as a strategic algorithm specifically designed for strict risk mitigation. This systematic approach relies on what Sun Tzu calls temple calculations. The general who makes many calculations in his temple before the battle is fought will win. The victor is determined long before opposing forces ever meet. By deconstructing the text, we can rebuild this strategic algorithm from the ground up and prove that under Sun Tzu's parameters, military victory is a deterministic output. Before a single soldier marches, a commander must mathematically quantify the operational environment. This chart maps the first three of the 5 constant factors. First, the moral law, which measures the unity between the state's ruler and its people. Second, heaven, representing the variable conditions of weather, seasons, and time. Third, earth, which measures distances, physical danger, and the topography of the ground itself. The final 2 factors complete the matrix. The commander represents the human variables of wisdom, sincerity, and strictness. Method and discipline govern the logistical subdivisions of the army and the control of military expenditure. Once established, these 5 factors are weighed through 7 considerations. These act as comparative metrics, allowing a general to directly weigh their own discipline, training, and unit strength against the enemy's metrics. The general who computes these metrics extensively establishes the certainty of victory. The commander who ignores them guarantees their own defeat. Even a victorious army faces a strict economic deadline. If a campaign is protracted, weapons grow dull, and the resources of the state will shatter under the strain. Sun Tzu is explicit on this vulnerability. Though we have heard of stupid haste in war, cleverness has never been seen associated with long delays. The strategic failure of laying siege to a walled city is quantifiable. The preparation of mantlets and mounds takes up to 6 months of labor, and a premature assault results in a third of the attacking force being slain without taking the town. Maintaining long supply lines creates an inescapable friction. It causes poverty at the state level, while the physical proximity of the army inflates prices and drains the local peasantry's substance. To bypass this supply chain degradation, the algorithm dictates a logistical hack. The wise general mandates foraging on the enemy. This animation illustrates the mathematical efficiency of that directive. Because of extreme friction in long-distance transport, 1 cartload of the enemy's provisions equals 20 of one's own domestic carts. Therefore, the goal is not continuous combat. Supreme excellence consists in breaking the enemy's resistance without fighting, preserving the state's treasury and forces entirely intact. To win without fighting requires a core behavioral mechanic. Sun Tzu writes, "All warfare is based on deception." A commander must systematically obscure their own form. When able to attack, they must feign inability. When deploying forces, they must seem inactive. When near, they must project the illusion of distance. While your own form is obscured, you must simultaneously uncover the enemy's. Sun Tzu warns that this foreknowledge cannot be elicited from spirits or deductive calculation. It requires a vast network of human intelligence. This network graph maps the 5-tier intelligence architecture required to clear the fog of war. It relies on local spies, inward spies embedded in enemy administration, converted spies, doomed spies feeding false data, and surviving spies carrying intelligence back to camp. The critical node in this network is the converted spy, an enemy agent actively turned to your cause. Without the information provided by the converted spy, the other 4 intelligence classes cannot be properly acquired or utilized. Maintaining this asymmetry requires extreme operational security. If intelligence is divulged prematurely, the protocol is the execution of both the spy and the man to whom the secret was told. By plunging the hostile force into total ignorance while achieving absolute illumination of their internal ranks, a commander engineers a state of absolute predictability. Physical execution begins only after the intelligence network has perfectly mapped the enemy's vulnerabilities. This relies on 2 exact principles: energy and decision. Tactical energy is not chaotic. It is the methodical, invisible buildup of situational advantage, likened to the extreme contained tension of bending a crossbow. The decision is the violent release of that built-up tension. It is prompt and final, matching the well-timed swoop of a falcon striking its victim. Tactical maneuvers harness this energy through infinite combinations of the direct method, known as Chang, and the indirect method, known as Qi. Direct forces engage the enemy's front to fix them firmly in place. Simultaneously, indirect forces maneuver unpredictably to strike weak points and secure the victory. Sun Tzu compares an optimally organized army to the shuizhan, a reactive serpent found in the Chang Mountains. Strike its head, and you are attacked by its tail. Strike the tail, and you are attacked by the head. The system reacts instantly. A competent commander never requires excessive individual courage from his men. He relies entirely on the overwhelming momentum of the situation, developing energy that acts as a heavy round stone rolled down a mountain thousands of feet in height. Strategy is physically bound by the map. The physical environment dictates tactical viability and shifts the internal disposition of the troops. Specific topographies present severe, quantifiable dangers. Precipitous heights must be occupied early to control the sun, while narrow, hemmed-in passes allow a tiny fraction of troops to crush a massive host. To maintain organizational control across this difficult geography, a general implements a strict system of gongs, drums, and banners. These tools focus the ears and eyes of the host, locking the vast army into a single, cohesive body. The ultimate application of environmental psychology is found in Chapter 11's classification of desperate ground. The protocol for desperate ground is counterintuitive. A general must intentionally place his soldiers in a position from which there is absolutely no escape route. This forces a total break in morale. Placed in fatal peril without a place of refuge, soldiers lose all sense of fear and adopt a stubborn, terminal conviction. This map reveals the true nature of Sun Tzu's text, a fully populated matrix integrating logistics, espionage, energy, and terrain. The flow of guaranteed victory is strictly sequential. Asymmetric information isolates weak points, deception lures them onto unfavorable terrain, and concentrated energy crushes them. Within this rigorous system, the chaotic physical violence of the battlefield is reduced to a mere formality. It simply confirms the math computed long before. The hallmark of a clever fighter is that they win with ease. They earn no reputation for incredible wisdom or raw courage because they simply make no mistakes, conquering an enemy that the algorithm has already defeated. This logic defines the Sun Tzu method. The victorious strategist only seeks battle after the victory has been won. Total mastery of conflict means engineering defeat entirely out of the equation.